Hello everyone, this is the first lecture from the module 3. Today we are going to discuss the topic greatest common divisor. Before discussing about greatest common divisors, we can talk about common divisors or common factors. Suppose we have two positive integers a and b. Sometimes we can find a positive integer which is both factor of a and factor of b. Such factors are called common divisors or common factors. That is, a common factor of two positive integers a and b is a positive integer which is a divisor or a factor of both a and b. For example, consider two integers 12 and 18. We have the common factors of this 12 and 18 are 1, 2, 3 and 6. Because if you are considering factors of 12, we know 1 is a factor of 12, 2 is a factor because 1 into 12, that is 12 is a factor of 12 and 1 is a factor of 12. 2 into 6 is a 12, so 2 and 6 are factors. 3 into 4 is equal to 12, so 3 and 4 are factors of 12. Now again 4 into 3, so these are the factors of 12. Now what about factors of 18? 1 into 18, that is 1 and 18 are factors of 18. Now 2 into 9, so 2 and 9 are factors of 18. 3 into 6 are factors of 18, so 3 and 6. Now 4 into 5 into etc, then 6 into 3 etc. So these are the factors of 12 and these are the factors of 18. So we know the common factors are 1, 2, 3. Now 4 is not common, then 6 is again common, and yeah, these are the common factors, that is 1, 2, 3 and 6. So these are the common factors of 12 and 18. Now what about this 12 and 25? We know the factors of 12 are this 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12. These are the common factors of 12. Now what about the factors of 25? Factors of 25 is are 1 into 25, then 2 into 3 into 4 into 5 into 5. Okay, so the factors are 1, 5 and 25 are the factors of 25. So common factors of 12 and 25 are what? 1 only. So 1 is the only common factor of 12 and 25. Clear? So that is the common factor. Now we can discuss about greatest common divisor or greatest common factor. It is written as GCD. It is the greatest common divisor of two integers a and b, not both 0. Is the largest positive integer that divides both a and b. And it is denoted by this symbol. This is called greatest common divisor of or GCD of AB. GCD means greatest common divisor or greatest common factor. It is the symbol or it is the notation for GCD. So this it is read as GCD of A and B. So GCD means greatest common divisor. For example, 12 and 18. If you are taking these numbers, we know these are the common divisors. So the greatest common divisor is 6. So the greatest common divisor of A and B is a positive integer that divides both A and B, and it is the largest positive integer. It divides both A and B. For example, greatest common divisor of or GCD of 12 and 18 is equal to 6. That is we obtained here. GCD of 12 and 5 equal to 1 because there is only one common divisor or common factor for 12 and 25. So that is the GCD. So GCD of 11 and 9 is equal to 1. GCD of minus 15 and 25 equal to 5. GCD of 3 comma 0 equal to 3 because 0 3 is a factor of 0 because we can write 0 equal to 3 into 0, so 3 is a factor and 3 is again a factor of 3 because 3 into 1 we can return this 3 as 3 into 1. So the greatest common factor is 3. Now we have not the GCD of a comma minus b equal to GCD of minus a comma b equal to GCD of minus a comma minus b equal to GCD of ab. Now we can discuss an example. Show that the GCD of A and B always exists. If you are taking any positive integers a and b, then GCD of a and b always exists. Now how to prove this? Suppose we have two integers a and b. Now we know one divides a and one divides b. Since one divides a and one divides b, we know one is a factor of a and one is a factor of b, because we have a can be written as a into 1 and b can be written as b into 1. So one is a factor of a and one is a factor of b. Therefore, one is a common divisor or common factor of a and b. Therefore, because one divides a and one divides b. So, if you are taking any integer a and b, we get a least common divisor 1. Now, if d is a common divisor of a and b, if d is a common divisor of a and b, we know d is less than or equal to a and d is less than or equal to b. So, d is less than or equal to minimum of a comma b. Right? If d is a common divisor of a and b, then we know d is a divisor of a and d is a divisor of b, and we know every divisor of a will be less than or equal to a, and every divisor of b will be less than or equal to b. So d is less than or equal to a and d is less than or equal to b. Therefore, d is less than or equal to minimum of a comma b. Thus, set of common factors is finite. The set of common factors is finite. That means GCD of AB exists. That is, GCD of AB should be a finite number. Therefore, GCD of AB exists. Now, the symbolic definition of GCD. A positive integer D is the GCD of two positive integers A and B if D divides A and D divides B, and if D dash is divides A, or D dash is a divisor of A and D dash is a divisor of B, then D dash should be less than or equal to D, where D dash is also a positive integer. അതായത് ഒരു D എന്നൊരു പോസിറ്റീവ് ഇൻറ്റിജർ എയുടെയും ബിയുടെയും ജി സി ഡി ആണെന്ന് പറയണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഈ രണ്ട് കണ്ടീഷൻ സാറ്റിസ്ഫൈ ചെയ്യണം. ഫസ്റ്റ് കണ്ടീഷൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഡി ഡിവൈഡ്സ് എ ആൻഡ് ഡി ഡിവൈഡ്സ് ബി. ദാറ്റ് മീൻസ് ഡി ഷുഡ് ബി എ ഫാക്ടർ ഓഫ് എ ആൻഡ് ഫാക്ടർ ഓഫ് ബി. And if we have another divisor of a and b, d dash, if we have d dash which is a divisor of both a and b, then d dash should be less than or equal to d. If these two conditions satisfied, then we can say that d is a GCD of integers and positive integers a and b. That is, d equal to GCD of a comma b if two conditions are satisfied. First one is D must be a common factor of a and b, that is this common factor of a and b, and d must be the largest common factor of a and b. This means that d should be, or d must be a largest common factor of a and b. In other words, any other common factor d dash should be less than or equal to d. That is the symbolic definition of greatest common divisor, or GCD. Next, we have an important terminology, relatively prime integers. Relatively prime integers. Suppose we have two integers a and b. Then these two integers a and b are said to be relatively prime if their GCD is 1. If their GCD is 1, that is, GCD of AB equal to 1. If GCD of AB equal to 1, then we can say that A and B are relatively prime. For example, we know 12, GCD of 12 and 19 equal to 1. GCD of 12 and 19 equal to 1, because we know the factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4 and 12, right? Yeah, 6 is here, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and the factors of 19 are 1 and 19 only. So the greatest common divisor or greatest common factor is only 1, which is 1. Only common factor is 1, so GCD should be 1. Okay, so the GCD of 12 and 19 equal to 1. So 12 and 19 are relatively prime. Clear? For example, 6 and 35 are relatively prime because we have GCD of 6 and 35 equal to 1. That is, the greatest common divisor is 1 only. Okay. Again, 11 and 24 are also relatively prime. Okay. Next, we have a theorem. Any two consecutive Fibonacci numbers are relatively prime. Any two consecutive Fibonacci numbers are relatively prime. We know Fibonacci numbers are 0, 1, then adding this we get 0 plus 1 is 1, again 1, then adding these two we get 2, then adding these two 3, then 2 plus 3 equal to 5, then 3 plus 5 equal to 8, 5 plus 18 equal to 13, 13 plus 8 is equal to 21, etc. So these are the Fibonacci numbers. The theorem says that any two consecutive Fibonacci numbers are relatively prime. That is, this 0 and 1 are relatively prime. 1 and 1 are relatively prime. 1 and 2 are relatively prime. 2 and 3 are relatively prime, etc. Now we can try to prove this. Let Fn and Fn plus 1 be two consecutive Fibonacci numbers. Then we have to prove that these Fibonacci numbers are relatively prime. That is, we have to show that Fn comma Fn plus 1, the GCD of Fn comma Fn plus 1 is equal to 1. This is we need to show. Now we can prove this by contradiction. That means if this is not true, that is, if this is not true means if Fn and Fn plus 1 are not relatively prime, then we may have a common factor for Fn and Fn plus 1. A common prime factor for Fn and Fn plus 1. Let P be a prime factor for both Fn and Fn plus 1. P be a prime factor of both Fn and Fn plus 1. Therefore, we have P divides P is a prime and P divides Fn and P divides Fn plus 1 also. If this is not true, we are going to prove this by contradiction. If this is not true means if there is a prime factor for both Fn and Fn plus 1. Now P divides Fn and P divides Fn plus 1. Now we have Cassini's formula, Fn minus 1 into Fn plus 1 minus Fn square is equal to minus 1 power n. Actually this is not in our syllabus. So to prove this theorem we have to use this formula, Cassini's formula. So you just note this formula. This is Cassini's formula. If Fn and Fn as the nth Fibonacci number, then Fn minus 1 into Fn plus 1 minus Fn square is equal to minus 1 power n. Now we have P divides Fn and P divides Fn plus 1. So P divides P divides Fn plus 1 means P divides this Fn minus 1 into Fn plus 1, and also we have P divides Fn. So P divides this Fn. Therefore, from this we get P divides Fn minus 1 into Fn plus 1 minus Fn whole square, because P divides Fn plus 1 means P divides this, and P divides Fn means P divides Fn square. So we have P divides a linear combination of these, that is Fn minus 1 into Fn plus 1 minus Fn square, right? That is by a theorem we previously studied. So P divides Fn minus 1 into Fn plus 1 minus Fn square. Therefore, P divides minus 1 power n, because we have this is equal to minus 1 power n. We know minus 1 power n is nothing but either it is minus 1 plus 1. Okay, if n equal to 1, it is minus 1. If n equal to 2, it is 1. If n equal to 3, it is minus 1, etc. So P divides plus or minus 1. So P divides plus or minus 1. P divides either plus 1 or P divides minus 1, which is a contradiction, because uh, uh, P is maybe 2, 3, 5, etc. You know, this is these are not divides plus or minus 1. So P divides plus or minus 1 is we obtained a contradiction. So our assumption is wrong. We assumed that P is a prime factor of Fn and Fn plus 1. So this is wrong. Therefore, Fn GCD of Fn comma Fn plus 1 is equal to 1. That is, every two consecutive Fibonacci numbers are relatively prime. Next we have a lemma 3.1. It is called Duncan's identity. Duncan's identity. It is discovered in 1964 by D.C. Duncan. So it is called Duncan's identity. It states that let Fi denote the ith Fermat number, Here also, format number is also not in the definition is not in the syllabus, so you just note it down. Format number is actually a number of this form. Fn is equal to 2 power 2 power n plus 1 are called format numbers. So the first format number is f0. When n equal to 0, we have 2 power 2 power 0, that is 2 power 1 plus 1, that is 2 plus 1, that is 3. That is first format number when n equal to 0. Second format number is when n equal to 1, it is 2 power 2 power 1, that is 2 power 2 plus 1, that is 4 plus 1, that is 5, etc. If n equal to 3, n equal to 2, we will get f2 equal to 17, f3 equal to when n equal to 3 we have 257, and when n equal to 4 we have format number is 65537. This is a note, format numbers are all odd. All the format numbers are odd numbers. Okay, now what is Duncan's identity? Let fi denote the ith format number. Fi denote the ith format number. Then the product of these format numbers is f0, f1, etc. fn minus 1 is equal to fn minus 2, where n is greater than or equal to 1. That is f0, f1, etc. fn minus 1. That is product of this f1, f0 into f1 into etc. fn minus 1 is equal to fn minus 2. This is the Duncan's identity. Now to prove this, we can use induction. Here we have to prove this f0 into f1 into etc. fn minus 1 equal to fn minus 2. So if n equal to 1, where n is greater than or equal to 1, first we can put n equal to 1. If n equal to 1, we have this is f0, f1, etc. f1 minus 1 is f0 here, so it is f0 itself. So when n equal to 1, LHS is equal to f0. When n equal to 1, we have this is f1 minus 1, that is f0. Okay, equal to f0 is, we know f0 equal to 3. So this is equal to 3, which is equal to, which can be written as 5 minus 2, or we can write this right hand side is f2 f1 minus 2. F1 minus 2 is 5 minus 2, which is again 3. So we have the result is true, or the statement is true for n equal to 1. Okay, we can write like this. LHS is equal to f0 equal to 3, and RHS is equal to f1 minus 2, which is nothing but 5 minus 2, which is equal to 3. So LHS equal to RHS when n is equal to 1. So the result is true for n equal to 1. Now to prove this by induction, we have to assume that the result is true for n equal to k. Then we have to show that result is true for n equal to k plus 1. So we are assuming first that the result is true for n is equal to k. That means if you are replacing n by k here, then this statement is true. That is f0 into f1 into etc. fk minus 1 is equal to fk minus 2. That is, this is true. F0, f1 etc. fk minus 1 is equal to fk minus 2 is true. Then this is our assumption. Now we have to show that it is true for n equal to k plus 1. That is, we have to show that for n equal to k plus 1, we will have f0, f1 etc. fk plus 1 minus 1, that is fk equal to fk plus 1 minus 2. That is, we need to show. That is, we have to show that f0, f1, f2 etc. fk plus 1 minus 1, that is fk is equal to fk plus 1 minus 2. This is we need to prove. So for that we can use this, that is the left hand side is f0, f1 etc. fk minus 1 into fk. This can be written as f0, f1 etc. fk minus 1 into fk. But we have from this f0, f1 etc. fk minus 1 is fk minus 2. So replacing that, we'll get fk minus 2 into fk. But this is by inductive hypothesis. So we know fk is nothing but 2 power 2 power k. This is by the definition of the format number. We know the format number is of this form: fn is equal to 2 power 2 power n plus 1. So we have fk is nothing but 2 power 2 power k plus 1. That is, fk is equal to 2 power 2 power k plus 1. So this is nothing but plus 1 minus 2 is minus 1 into fk equal to 2 power 2 power k plus 1. Clear? Now here a minus b into a plus b, that is a square minus b square. So this is equal to 2 power 2 power k whole square minus 1 square, a square minus b square. Now this is nothing but 2 power 2 power k into 2 means 2 power 2 power k into 2 here. This is actually, it will be this equal to 2 power k into 2 minus 1. Now this is equal to this 2 power k plus 2, right? 2 power k plus 1, that is this is 2 power k into 2, that is 2 power k into 2 power 1 is 2 power k plus 1. So 2 power k plus 1 minus 1, that is 2 power k plus 1 plus 1 minus 2, right? So this is equal to this. This is actually fk plus 1 minus 2. So if the result is true for n is equal to k, it is also true for n equal to k plus 1. So by the induction, the result holds for every integer n greater than or equal to 1. So this is the Duncan's identity. Now we have another theorem. This is Polya's theorem. Polya's theorem. Theorem states that let m and n be distinct non-negative integers. Let m and n be distinct non-negative integers. Then fm and fn are relatively prime. So if m and n are distinct non-negative integers, we have fm, the GCD of fm and fn is equal to 1. This is the Polya's theorem states. Okay, now to prove this, assume for convenience m less than n. We have m and n are arbitrary distinct non-negative integers. So for convenience, we can choose m less than n. Let d equal to the GCD of fm and fn. Now we have to show that GCD of fm comma fn is equal to 1. So we have to show that d equal to 1. To show that d equal to 1, that is we need to prove. Since d is a divisor of fm and fn, we can say that since d is the GCD of fm and fn, we have d divides m and d divides fm and d divides fn. Clear. Now, what is fn minus 2? By the previous lemma, we have fn minus 2 is equal to f naught into f1 into etc. fm etc. fn minus 1, because we have taken m as less than n. So, by the previous lemma, that is Duncan's formula, we have fn minus 2 is equal to f naught f1 etc. fn minus 1. Now we have d divides fm. So since d divides fm, we have d divides fm means we have d divides f naught, f1, etc. fm into fm minus 1, because fm is a factor of this number. Fm is a factor of this. So since d divides fm, we have d also divides this number. Okay. Therefore, we have d divides this. That is, if d divides the right hand side, then we have d divides left hand side also. So d divides fn minus 2. That means we already know that d divides fn. Okay, since d divides fn, we already know that. So here we obtain that d divides fn minus 2. So to make it possible, we have d divides 2 also. Okay, if divides 2 and fn, then only d divides fn minus 2. So since d divides fn, we have, and d divides fn minus 1 minus 2, we have d divides 2. So d divides 2 means, so d may be only 1 or 2, because the divisors of 2 are 1 and 2. So d must be either 1 or 2. But Fermat numbers are all odd. We already know all the Fermat numbers are odd. So d not equal to 2, because we have d divides fm and d divides fn. So d is not equal to 2, because fm and fn are Fermat numbers. So d not equal to 2. Therefore d equal to 1 only. Therefore the GCD of fm and fn is equal to 1. Therefore fn and fm are relatively prime. Okay, that is the Polya's theorem. Now we have another theorem, theorem point 3.3. The theorem states that there is an infinitude of primes. There are infinitely many primes. To prove this, first we have by lemma 2.1. We know lemma 2.1 is every integer n greater than or equal to has a prime factor. Every integer which is greater than or equal to has a prime factor. So by using that lemma, we have every Fermat number has a prime factor, because we know every Fermat number is greater than or equal to 2. So by that, using that lemma, we have every Fermat number has a prime factor. Therefore, by Paulia's theorem, we have Fn and Fm are relatively primes. That is, the only common factors of Fm and Fn are 1. So, by Paulia's theorem, we have no two distinct Fermat numbers have common prime factor. No two distinct Fermat numbers have common prime factors. That means each has a distinct prime factor. Each has a distinct prime factor. So that is each Fermat number has a distinct prime factor. So since there are infinitely many Fermat numbers, we know there are infinitely many Fermat numbers. That is when we are replacing n, we get infinitely many Fermat numbers. So since there are infinitely many Fermat numbers, there are infinitely many primes also, because each Fermat number has a distinct prime factor by using the previous theorem, that is Paulia's theorem. That is because if you are taking any two Fermat numbers, then we have the GCD is equal to 1. That means there are no common prime factors for any two Fermat numbers. Common prime factors. There are no common prime factors. That means each Fermat number has a prime factor, distinct prime factor. So since Fermat numbers are infinitely many, so we have infinitely many primes.